Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Catalyst for Social Justice series. My name is Michelle Hanna, and I am professor and the Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at the Graduate School of Social Work at the University of Denver. I am delighted that our school offers this important opportunity to contemplate this critical social and racial justice issues of our time. Our Dean, Amanda Moore McBride, founded this series in 2016 as a means of bringing us together as a community to explore, learn, reflect, and in some cases, take action. We do so acknowledging and honoring the Cheyenne and Arapaho peoples whose land upon which the University of Denver stands. As I am sure the over 300 of you who have registered and are joining us today can agree, the work we do as social workers, as well as faculty and staff in higher education, can be both rewarding and exhausting. It is a constant giving of our time, our energy, and ourselves, with little to no recognition of the impact that this has on our physical, mental, and emotional health. We talk a lot about the importance of self-care, yet we too fall into the trap of what our speaker today calls grind culture. Within the structures of capitalism, racism, and patriarchy, grind culture means that for us to be valuable or worthy, we must be productive. I am so excited to introduce our speaker today, Heather Archer, the author of the book, The Grind Culture Detox. Heather is an Afro-Indigenous activist, author, and wellness coach with a vision and mission to create patterns of thriving in her personal life and in the communities that she serves. Heather is a certified life coach with specialties in sound healing, Reiki yoga, and hypnotherapy. Heather attended both Smith College and New York University and has over 15 years of experience with teacher training and curriculum development. Heather weaves her academic and organizational background with her work as a healer and a wellness coach to create a transformational learning experience for those on the journey to thriving at work. I have read Heather's book and encourage each of you to do so as well. There are so many gems in there that I know that it will take way more than 1 hour for us to unpack all of it. Heather has planned a unique session for us today. She has integrated reflection time into her remarks, so we are active participants applying what we are learning. As a result, we will not be offering Q&A today. So let's get right to it. Heather, thank you so much for joining us today.
Wow, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And I'm so happy that you got something out of the book. And I'm really happy to be here talking to graduate students and faculty at this particular time. And so, first and foremost, you don't have to do anything for this time that we're together. All I ask is that you receive. And so, if that means that you kick back a bit, maybe you get a little bit more comfortable, get a little cozier, some tea, some water, nourish yourself, maybe take your lunch if you haven't done so already. Really take this moment to care for yourself and know that even if you're not like seated right at the screen taking notes vigorously, that doesn't mean that your experience is any less valuable or that you're getting less out of it, right? So the most important thing is that you feel comfortable right now to have this conversation. And with that, just taking a moment of reflective pause and slowness. And I'm going to introduce a really quick breathing practice that I like to share with folks. I like to do it sometimes in between Zoom sessions. And it's just a really quick reset where basically I call it the 4-4-4 breath. And what you do is you breathe in for the count of 4. So you just take a breath in for the count of 4. You hold your breath for the count of 4. And then you breathe out of your nose for the count of 4. And you do that for 4 repetitions. And so I just invite everybody to just take a moment. We have a picture of a turtle on the screen, and just wanting to take a moment to embody the turtle, the slowness of the turtle, and taking a moment to breathe. Breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathing out of your nose for 4. And do that as many times as it feels right to do. The trick is with that one is you want to make sure that you breathe a little slower with each repetition. And it just really starts to help and regulate the nervous system. So, with this, in the spirit of the turtle, I also wanted to do a land acknowledgement. So, right now I'm in San Francisco, California. Outside of the city that I'm in, and I know that I'm speaking to folks in Denver, Colorado. I wanted to make a land acknowledgement when we think about the land mass that is North America, because a lot of indigenous communities still call this land something called Turtle Island. And just thinking about, there's a really beautiful story about the spirit of the turtle that you can Google around, like, why is it called Turtle Island? But, just thinking about how the turtle is a very old creature. It's one of the most prehistoric creatures, and it's also very, very slow. And to just take a moment of pause to reflect on the fact that we are situated on, most of us, anyways, are situated on Turtle Island right now. And so, really wanting to embody that's the spirit of the turtle, even in this fast paced society that we're in, known as the United States of America. Like, we can still embody that slowness. And there is a legacy of slowness on the land that we're situated on. And so, with that, I wanted to give a little bit more information about me and who I am and why did I write a book called The Grind Culture Detox. So I think it's kind of cool to talk to a graduate program right now, because the very first rumblings, I haven't really shared this a lot with folks, but the very first rumblings of the Grind Culture Detox was in when a doctoral student in an education leadership program. I got pregnant like as soon after I started the program, and I was just like, I'm just going for it. I'm doing it. Like, I was super upwardly mobile in my career. I just had gotten a big promotion and all of this stuff. And I wanted to study wellness. I wanted to study well-being, specifically with early childhood educators. So that was a group I work with really intimately, was early childhood professionals. And I started to notice and see that there was some pretty interesting correlations between wellness and race, wellness and gender, wellness and immigration status, wellness, and what level of education you taught. So that was really interesting to me. But one thing is, as I was studying wellness and how to cultivate a culture of wellness in my doctoral program, I myself wasn't well. I wasn't incorporating the wellness practices needed. I didn't understand how to do so in my doctoral program, because at the particular time it was very much about, like, no, if you want to be a doctoral student, you grind it out. You work the long hours to finish the paper, to finish the dissertation, to get your annotated bibliography down pat. Like, there was no space for that. It was like, no, this is an agreement. You go in for rigor, you go in for the grind, and then the reward is the degree. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but I had to make the decision. I finished my first year of my doctoral program, got really far in my research, but really just got to the point. I had given birth to my son. I got promoted into program I talk about in the book, The Grind Culture Detox. So you'll get a chance to read about that. And then I just was like, I can't do it all. I'm not Superwoman. I'm not able to do the full-time doctoral program, to be a new mom, to work full-time. I can't, I can't be well and do this. So I literally have to stop studying about a culture of wellness and to take some time for my wellness journey. So that was like the first level into my grind culture detox. And then, my second level was in the workforce too. And I talk about that a little bit more as well. So y'all can read that. Another iteration of my journey was the NAP ministry. And, a few years ago, just finding her Instagram page, seeing her quotes, she just put out the book Rest is Resistance. I don't know if anybody's gotten that book, but it's just amazing, amazing piece of literature. Highly recommend to get it. But this quote in particular that she posted on Instagram some years back stuck out to me, which is, why is everything rushed? When did quick become the standard of our desires? Why is fast pace given authority over a slow, steady flow? It's time to detox from grind culture. It's time to rest. And so just taking that just kind of spoke to my soul. When I first heard about the nap ministry, I'll be honest, like I thought it was like a joke. I was like, oh, that's funny or that's silly. But then as I started to hear her talk more about grind culture and the need to pause and rest, it was like something was speaking to my subconscious mind through that. And so I started to cultivate rest experiences through utilizing sound healing and meditation, co-founded an organization called Black Healers Connect, where we would bring sound healing to Black communities and wellness, breathwork practices, stuff that wasn't, supposed to be for us. Typically, that's what we were told, So that's a little bit about my story and my why. And I wanted to just give a definition of what grind culture is. Grind culture is rooted in the belief that in order to be valuable, you must be productive. So it's a system fueled by addictive achievement caused by a capitalist economy. Grind culture measures a person's overall worth and value by how much they can produce. Grind culture looks like a fear of stillness, feeling guilty about resting, viewing exhaustion as productive, sacrificing the needs of your body to produce, overpacking your calendar. Symptoms of grind culture: never feeling satisfied for what you have, feeling guilty for resting, thinking something is wrong with you for not being productive, being in competition with others over who grinds the hardest. So I'm not sure if any of that stuff that I listed is stuff you can relate to. So the first, we're going to be reading the first couple chapters of the book, and that's just what I just shared in the slides is a quick summary of what grind culture is. The book goes into more depth, obviously. So I really want to get to this assessment, though. And you'll be able to learn a little bit more about your assessment results once you read parts of the book. It'll start making a lot more sense, and you'll be able to start seeing where you land in grind culture. This isn't something that any of us can really escape. We're all impacted by grind culture on different levels. But as I will share in later content, a lot of times the ways in which we're impacted by grind culture is very much dependent upon the identities that we carry in our society. So, but let's first just assess. I'm asking you, remember, I said there's nothing for you to do. And I did say that, and I'm giving you an assessment. So my apologies for that. But it's very quick, 5 minutes. You can do it on your phone. I'm going to take the moment of the song ending to just kind of flow into what some of the results might be. So you should be getting the results emailed to you. But I'm going to just read from the book. I'm reading from page 18. Just to kind of give a summary on what the results could look like for you. So it says, if you answered never to 8 or more of these questions, you may already be embodying a good deal of work-life liberation. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that is. If you answered most of the time to 8 or more, you are fully immersed in grind culture. Many of us fall somewhere in the middle. And if you answered sometimes or often to a majority of these questions, you are somebody who takes work seriously, but has probably built in some boundaries and safeguards to protect your health and well-being. Wherever you are in this journey is okay. Remember, your value is not related to your ability to grind, and it's not related to your answers to these questions. You are whole and worthy just as you are. And say hello to my cat. You are whole and worthy just as you are. Changing old habits and building healing practices as you detox will not make you better or more worthy, but it can rejuvenate your life, calm your anxiety and perfectionism, and help you to reclaim your wellness. So Yeah, this is just information gathering, you know. This is a process. So I think sometimes in the realm of wellness, there's a lot of shoulds. You know, we should get up and go exercise. We should go take a walk. We should go stretch. Like there's a lot of shoulds, and I think a good thing to do with this process is to have fun with it and to find joy with it. And so to really find things that work for you and consider this a journey of progress rather than perfection. So, a little bit about like grind culture if we zoom out of ourselves. So, we had a chance to take a look and reflect on where we might be positioned in the world of grind culture. But now I think, you know, we should just kind of like look around and just think about things from a more global standpoint, which is this great resignation, or even if we focus on a national standpoint of the great resignation, and these numbers continue to shift, but we're definitely seeing a large amount of people saying, like, I can't work like this anymore. You know, like it's either it's the dream, it's the American dream, or it's like my well being. It's the American dream, or it's me like feeling well rested, you know? And so people are more and more choosing wellness, you know, and I think that this is an amazing thing. I think it's a great opportunity to stop, pause, and to think about maybe we can restructure some things. Maybe we can do some things that help us all feel more supported in the workplace. So because this is a win-win for everyone. We all could benefit from being a little less busy in our society. And so when we look at the numbers of like why people are leaving though, like a lot of folks are leaving because of burnout and they don't necessarily have another job lined up. And in an extremely like high stakes capitalist society that we live in, that's pretty bold to be like, I'm quitting and I don't have another job lined up, you know, especially if you live in a city. When we see kind of like what's going on with the housing and all that kind of stuff. So people are like choosing their life, you know, over the American dream, over their social climbing and the upward mobility. And so, and this is all across. So, you know, you got the white collar, you got the blue collar, you know, there's been a lot of organizing at Amazon. The Amazon workers have made some gains there regarding not quite unionizing, but definitely moving in that direction. And so, just kind of like wanted to give a snapshot of like why it might be good to rethink how we work, because people are deciding that they don't they want more or they're seeking more. And so how do we heal from grind culture? You know, we're going to talk a lot more about the racial implications of grind culture. um, we might get into it a little bit today, but definitely by the next time we meet. So there's a whole history behind it. And I want to focus a little bit right now on what's possible, like what solutions could be possible. And so, what are some ways we can heal from grind culture? How can we bring these practices into our daily existence? Well, we can do so through somatics, which are things like yoga, sound healing, breath work. We can do this through things like mindset, and we could do that through affirmations, transformative questioning, hypnosis, or meditation. We can do this with shadow work, which is like looking at our ancestral lineage. What are some things that we need to heal on an ancestral level, especially when we think about like intergenerational trauma and epigenetics? A lot of that has some really deep linkages with shadow work. Evaluating toxic habits. Why was I trained to kind of feel like I needed to be productive at all costs? Where did that come from? Boundaries, respectfully learning to assert our preferences, being able to institute energetic boundaries. Space clearing, really paying attention to our space, right? Which is another way of reclaiming our humanity in the workplace. So, like infusing herbs, teas, aromatherapy, plants, binaural beats, smudging, these kinds of things, reclaiming ancestral wisdom and practices, and integrating them into our workday to help revitalize us. Nature walks, taking, maybe sometimes not everything has to be a Zoom, right? Maybe sometimes it could be an audio only call and folks can be walking and getting some fresh air and still being able to participate in the meeting, right? And so just having a larger container of what a meeting could be, you know, finding opportunities to be outside, using teas, plant allies, bringing those into our workflow, different herbs and vitamins that we can take to support us, grounding. So I mentioned a lot of things, and in our busy society, right? Some people might be like, well, where am I going to find the time to do that? You know, I have this to do, I have that to do. And that's why we really take a moment to analyze grind culture. I know we're all busy, but do we have to be as busy as we are at this moment? You know, and so like really unpacking that as a society. So doing that, you know, on an individual level, right? And so we did a little taste of that with the grind culture assessment, but then also zooming out and think about like looking at your calendar. And so we're going to be getting into more of this stuff, but like, what does our calendar look like? Does our calendar honor our humanity? Really getting back to the basics. It's the seemingly little things to do that we do, our eating habits, our sleeping patterns. If we start there, we can really get a lot of information about some deeper issues we have with values related to work. And so I want to pause and I want to give us some time to do some writing and just, I mean, I could just imagine folks' minds are zooming, you know, for many different reasons. Grind culture is a provocative topic, you know. It's something, it's like an elephant in the room. Like we all kind of know about it just because like we live in society. And yet it's not something that we just openly talk about. So like honoring that, you know, this is a newer conversation. But then also thinking about like you just took an assessment. You got a chance to hear my story. You got a chance to hear about some alternatives that we could integrate into our days that might support us with detoxing from grind culture. I want to take a moment to do a reflective journaling, stream of consciousness. So, really, the idea is to get words on paper or words on your voice memos. Maybe you're not in the writing mood right now, and that's okay. What you can do is you can take out your phone, you can do a voice memo. Okay, it's just something where you're documenting thoughts and processes that you're having. And the question, I have an open-ended question. You know, if you're somebody who's like, I really want a prompt, I'm going to give you a prompt, but I'm also leaving the door open for just stream of consciousness writing right now. The prompt I'm going to give you, which I will also type into the chat, is how are you impacted by grind culture? And is another way possible? Okay, so I'm going to put that into the chat in a moment, but I'll say it one more time. How are you impacted by grind culture? And is another way possible? And so just to give you a sense of what we'll be doing with the rest of our session, so we're at the halfway mark right now. We're going to take some time to journal. We'll take about 7 minutes of some journaling time. And we'll just kind of, you know, and if it's like, I don't know, I still don't understand grind culture, then that's what you write about, you know, like what are the questions or what are the crucial questions that you have. If there's something inside of you that's like, hey, wait, there's something off about this, write it out. You know, a lot of this is about processing through the multi-layered of emotions that we that will come through having these kinds of conversations. So just write it out. My ask of you is, once you answer the question, which is how are you impacted by grind culture and is another way possible? Once you've answered that question, if you notice that there's still time after I gave you 7 minutes, right? And it's been 4, right? I would just encourage you to push just a little bit more, even if it's just writing for 1 more minute, because that's usually when you start getting at the subconscious mind. And that's like the good stuff. That's the stuff where you start getting into values around work and a lot more latent stuff. So I would say like try to write it out just a little bit more if you think you're done. And then after that, always honor your body, take care of yourself in the process. So I'm going to put that question into the chat now. We don't have to have all the answers, but it's good to take these moments to just kind of jot down what we're experiencing or say it out. There's a really powerful alchemy of words, especially like when you do the writing and you check back on the writing or where your mind was even 6 months ago. There's just a powerful healing balm with it, and you'll find that particularly through this process as you continue to like unearth your values around work and how that they impact your relationship with grind culture. And so with that, I want to take a moment to take whatever you wrote. So just whatever you wrote or whatever you said, we're going to take that into a very like a quick meditation. We're going to do a meditation. So I gave you a list of the different ways that we can possibly heal from grind culture, and that's not a definitive list. That's just a list I came up with. Many people would come up with like a lot more, and that's the great thing about this process is like there is no formula. Like there's a framework and there are like suggestions, but this is really about finding out what works for you as opposed to like trying to find like what box you fit into, like it's creating your own structure for your ability to thrive. And so with that, definitely bask in that creativity. A lot of times we're taught like there's no time to be creative. It's not profitable to be creative. It's not reasonable to be creative. And I would say that like creativity is going to be your saving grace. And it's really where you're going to find a lot of your latent power. So with that, I want to hold space for another modality. And so I'd like to take a moment to have us do a sound healing meditation. So I mentioned earlier, I am a certified sound healer, and you'll learn more about the science of sound healing when we get to that point in the book. But essentially, it's just a really great way to become okay with resting. So a lot of times we get anxiety. Like I'm sure even when I said meditation, somebody out there was like, "What meditation? What?" And I totally get it. I've been there. I was that person. So just know, like, I used to be somebody who was like, I can't sit still. I don't like sitting still. I was that person. And so the fact that I can now lead meditations, like, just shows that this stuff does work because I've definitely been the person of like, I don't know how to sit still. I don't want to. I think it's boring. That's another thing. Like, who wants to just be still? Sometimes it's like, well, no, busy is exciting. And I have found that there is a reservoir of knowledge and information that we can tap into once we become still. And we don't have to strive as hard because sometimes there's some wisdom that's latent within us. And if we become quiet and become still and become okay with this quiet and stillness, that we can access brilliant parts of ourselves. So with that, I'd love to do a guided meditation with you with the help of some singing bowls. So I'm going to play a little bit of music. We're going to do a quick intermission. So if we could do a 10-minute bio break. Sorry, not 10 minutes. Sorry, 2-minute bio break, self-care break. And so I'm going to take this time to do the sound healing. So just keep reflecting, and hopefully your eyes are closed or covered. But if they're not, then you have this scene of the autumn leaves. So just kind of taking in the energy of autumn as well during this time, how seasons change, how things transform. And just taking this moment, whatever you wrote down around your relationship with grind culture, you can think about that at this time. Two things: if you ever get a little anxious or nervous, or you're like, I don't feel like I should be resting, or I should be checking my email or doing something else, I would just encourage you to affirm that I am worthy of rest. So if that happens, if you feel that way, like, just try to go back to that affirmation. I am worthy of rest. See what that does for you. And another thing I'd like to offer, if anxiety comes up around resting, remember that breathing practice I offered earlier, the 4-4-4 breath, where we breathe in for the count of 4, we hold our breath for the count of 4, and we breathe out of our nose for the count of 4. Okay? And so if you get anxious, go back to that breathing as well. And yeah. And you can take a moment to affirm, I am worthy of rest. Imagine, if you would, that your life is a river. And imagine yourself on that river, floating on that river. And just take inventory of what can you see, what can you hear, what can you touch, taste, smell. Think about your professional path as a river. Think about your why, your values, why you do the work you do. Going back to that core why, which sometimes can be hard to hear in moments of frenzy. And I invite you to take this time to do another round of 4-4-4 breath. Taking a moment to breathe in for the count of 4. Hold for the count of 4. Then breathe out of your nose for the count of 4. Okay, and so that's a little taste of mindfulness. And so I'm actually going to ground us into the room. You know, I definitely know sometimes when we do mindfulness, it can take a moment to feel like, okay, I'm ready to do the thing again. So I want to honor that. So I'm going to be here to kind of do like a general Q&A, or like what came up for you. But I want to take a moment to just get us a little bit more centered in the room. A big part of this process is starting to see time as abundant. And we'll come back in 60 seconds. But let's just take some time to ground. All right. So we did a lot in less than an hour, wanting to review what we went through, what this experience was. We started off by honoring the land, honoring our breath. I got a chance to learn a little bit, or I got a chance to share a little bit more about my story with y'all, why I do what I do. Got a chance to explain what grind culture is, what some of the symptoms of it, what some of the manifestations of it can be. We got a chance to assess our personal relationship with grind culture, see where we fall into it. Got a chance to take a sneak peek at the societal implications of detoxing from grind culture with, looking at the Great Resignation and considering why folks might be leaving the workforce. And then we got a chance to explore our positionality with grind culture. And even if we think it's even possible to detox from it, or is another way of living or working even possible. So we got a chance to wrestle with that. Then we took that into meditation. We got a chance to explore sound healing meditation. For some folks, that might be the first time you ever have done something like that. So kudos to you for trying something new and giving it a whirl. I know that sometimes new stuff can feel a little weird, so thank you for remaining open and curious. And that's important. Curiosity is going to be important in this journey. So yeah, we did that. So we did a lot. We did a lot in less than an hour. This is your time to ask me stuff, or not even ask. You could even just say, like, this is what's coming up for me right now, and I'd be happy to honor that. Sorry, it looks like I was when I was sending out chats earlier, I was not sending it to the full group, so my apologies for that. Yeah. And I think next time we meet, we'll talk a little bit more about the racial implications of grind culture. We're doing layers. think it's good to just digest this information. But yeah, I think my only thing is if y'all could read the first 3 chapters of the Grind Culture Detox before we next meet on November 9th, or I believe, sorry, or maybe it's the 7th. Let me, don't quote me on the date. But yeah, and then we'll have a deeper conversation too. Um, so yeah.
Thank you so much, Heather. So for those of you who are outside of our GSSW community and will not be in our subsequent workshops, there is a link in the chat where you can find additional offerings to engage with Heather's work. And for those of you within our GSSW community, we will definitely be communicating those dates, etc. If you do have questions or comments, you can put them in the Q&A. Yeah, so we do have one question about where is the assessment, but it looks like that's been answered. The JOT form is in the chat, and I believe I filled mine out, and it says it will be sent to your email. So check your email if you put your email in there, and the JOT form is in the chat. Ash, can you put it in the chat one more time for folks if they didn't get it the first time? Can we do that?
Oh, I see a question. So Colleen asked, you have tips for meditating without falling asleep?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, first of all, I would say don't judge yourself for falling asleep. It took me a really long time to get to a point to meditate without falling asleep. And sometimes I still do, and I would say, number one, kudos to you for meditating. Number one, for being still, right? One thing you could try is meditating in the bathtub. So take your meditation practice to the bathtub, because you might fall asleep in the bathtub, but it's harder to fall asleep in the bathtub, and you're invigorated by the water. So I would try that. Also taking it outside, because you're probably not gonna fall asleep outside, right? So like sitting under a tree. And I know that that's like, wow, me sitting under a tree, that might even feel a little strange, but try that, and maybe it's a 5-minute practice.
I saw Markeisha raised her hand.
Hi, Markeisha. Would you like to?
Can you say something?
Can you all answer maybe the other questions that are in the Q&A while I try and unmute Markeisha?
Okay, sure. Okay.
Oh, okay, there we go. Do you have any recommendations for readings on working on generational trauma?
Ooh, that's a great. As a matter of fact, do I have this book? Oh, never mind. I don't have it. I didn't bring that one out. But I do. I would first start off with, I'm not sure if you heard of that book. It's called The Body Keeps Score. I actually have a recommended book list that I can send for folks that kind of just has some different books that are about topics that I touch on in the Grind Culture Detox, but there's a lot of lines there. But definitely The Body Keeps Score, by I think it's Besser Vandal Kolk, and he does a really great job of just tracking epigenetics and stuff. But the actual healing of generational trauma, I have some other recommendations. I'll put my email in the comment section if you want a deeper conversation about that. Thank you, Maree. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Is Markeisha, is she unmuted?
Yes, we probably have time for Markeisha's question.
Okay.
Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for this presentation. Can't wait to read the book. So the question, we're a social work school. We are training professionals. And so as we send folks out into the world, how do we help them be in this kind of anti-grand culture mode while also, managing and, affording their lives?
Because that's a really great question. Yeah, that's a really great question. And thank you for asking it. I think number one, it's going to start with you and how you model things at work. I think that's one thing I did so much, and you know, you'll hear about my story in the book, and I'd love to get your feedback. But I felt like I was so committed to helping disadvantaged youth or vulnerable populations, and it got me in this constant frenzy of like, I gotta help, and to the point where I wasn't helping myself. And I was modeling toxic work patterns to my staff as a leader, and they were in that same kind of hamster wheel. I didn't see it at the time because I hadn't addressed my own traumas around my workaholism and grind culture and how it was showing up for me. So creating opportunities for rest, small opportunities for rest, letting people know it's okay, you don't have to be on right now. And then that also is like you having those vulnerable moments of I don't have to be on right now, and it's okay, you know. And it takes time, it definitely takes time, but your modeling is going to be, it's going to be, it's the most important thing with that.
I'm going to try to squeak one more in. How do you feel about detangling from grind culture? How do you feel about that in parenthood?
Wow. You know, I am writing about that right now. Okay. Okay. So you are like, we're here. Cause there's a lot I'm still going through that. Like still going through, but I'm writing through it too. Cause it's the next level of the conversation. You know, the grind culture detox has levels. You know, you once you start kind of getting your work life together, then it's like, oh, okay, there's another level, my personal life. So more on that later.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much. We've really appreciated it. We're really looking forward to hearing more from you. And I hope those, again, outside of our community will follow the link and engaging with you in other ways. I just want to share with everyone that our next, the next event in our series, it went away, happens on February 8th. Thank you, Ash. And our speaker will be, okay, here we go, Alok Ve Menon. I think I got that right. They will speak about their newest book, Your Wound, My Garden. And my sincere apologies if I did not get the name right. But I'm really excited about that. And I really thank everyone for coming today and participating. And thank you, Heather. This was wonderful. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to our next visit with you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. And yes,
Thank
we do
you.
have another thing. You should have your jot form in your email. If you have problems, please let us know. All righty. Bye-bye.
Thank you.